happy Hanukkah and Chag Sameach to those who are celebrating. Today is technically the second day, but we're going to call it the third day because tonight we will light the third candle on the Hanukkah. Someone messaged me this week after my Hanukkah video and asked a really good question, and one that I feel like is a great question and one that I think many other people think about or wonder and just maybe haven't asked. So I wanted to just go ahead and put it out there. So the question was, why do we gift? Our kids, we do either 8 nights of gifts, or we do like gifts on the first night, or like the last night, or both, or whatever. The grandparents like to give gifts and we like to give gifts. So why do we do it? Why do we have that view when so many don't, or when it seems like it's a very controversial thing? I'd like to answer that, and it's going to be, in Candy Zaru fashion, a long, drawn out, likely unnecessarily long answer. But I went ahead and responded to that person, that sister in Mashiach. So the first to preface all of this, or not to preface it, but the first thing I want to establish is that my husband and I, we really do a lot of work on self and just being self-aware, and we really do a lot of work in the area of not being reactionary believers. So not being believers that see the world perverting something and then our reaction to it is so strong because of our love for the Most High that we just ban it altogether. One example, music. Scripture is very clear that music is a good thing. Music was created to worship Him. The world has perverted music insanely. They have very much perverted music. Does that mean that now it's more biblical to not listen to any music at all? No. Is that maybe something that someone maybe focuses on a little bit more? Being mindful, and maybe some people do just say, hey, it's better just not to listen to it at all. And they are within their believing liberty to do that. But they cannot say that it is scriptural or biblical or a biblically based belief to cut out all music forever and to ban it within the household. That just has to be a personal conviction, right? Okay. So I take that same thing with gifting. Just because the world has perverted gift giving, especially around this time, it's Christmas, everything's about getting, and whatever. That's really just what Christmas has become in America anyway. Not everywhere, so don't hear me saying that, but in America. That is what our culture has become. Our culture is just very materialistic. And so more often than not, I see people who don't believe in giving gifts for birthdays, for holidays, period, or specifically for Hanukkah, not giving gifts. It's less because it just wasn't a thing back then, maybe for Hanukkah, that they know of, and it's more because, well, Christmas this and Christmas that, and Christians and this and Christmas, and the world does this with Christmas. It's because of everybody else and what they're doing for Christmas, and the excess and the lengths that they're going to for Christmas, and them reacting to that and wanting to be like, oh no, we ain't doing any of that. No fun. We're gonna do no fun here. We're not gonna have any gifts, no sweets, none of it, because the world's doing it. And that's not how we operate in our faith. That's just not how we are. We look at the scriptures and we say, do we have the liberty to do this? Do we not? Is this, something that is permissible or something that is impermissible? And then is this something that's wise for our family, wise for our kids, wise for the personalities that we're dealing with within our home? That's how we make our decisions. But that also goes into, I think, I see people around this time, and it's not just people who are in Torah, but it's in general. There's a lot of discussion on raising kids who, are gracious and are grateful and are kind and all these things, and are giving and charitable and all of that. And there's a lot of emphasis around this time, again, as a reaction to the materialism and the excess that is going on. I know that pretty much everyone seeks to do that year round. It's just like an extra emphasis around this time, and I get it. I totally understand. But I think that we have to be careful to be walking in faith and in the power of the Most High, and in our faith in Him, and not walking in fear. I think I see often where it's like, well, I don't gift my kids gifts because then they'll be ungrateful little punks. And I don't really want to be dealing with that because I'm trying to raise righteous kingdom minding kids, dang it. So no gifts. We don't give our kids gifts. And to me, that is, for me personally, when I hear that, and this may be judgmental of me, I don't know, the Lord's gonna have to deal with my heart and search my heart with that. But I just see it as walking in fear of raising children who are crappy people or who are not believers, and then thinking that by taking away fun gifts, anything that could be enticing, anything that could be a temptation, anything that's good but really could be bad, we're just going to eliminate all of it. You know, anything that is fine scripturally but has a negative side in our culture that is amplified, we're going to get rid of all of it. And it's in our works and it's in our efforts that we're going to save our children. And that's a whole new video, but I just want to caution against that as we're talking about gifting your children. Okay, so in scripture specifically, one of the clearest scriptures, Deuteronomy, specifically Deuteronomy 6. Okay, so Deuteronomy 6, I can turn there here. But the point is that scripture, God himself in scripture, often motivates Yisrael as a group and as individuals by physical/material wealth gain and gifting/blessing. Deuteronomy 6, it says, "And it shall be when the Lord thy God shall have brought thee into the land which he sware unto the fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give thee great and goodly cities, which thou buildest not, and houses full of all good things," material, "which thou fillest not, and wells digged, which thou diggest not, vineyards and olive trees, which thou plantest not. When thou shalt have eaten and be full, then beware lest thou forget the Lord." And then it goes on. But we see here that God's saying, like, when I give you everything that I promised, my motivation to you, when I come in and when I give you all those things, beware. Don't forget about me. Don't forget about the person who gave you all these things. We see this repeated in James, I believe, but James 1:17, it says that every good and perfect gift comes from above, comes from the Most High. So it's the same concept of, it's not the gift that's the issue, it's our hearts and our minds, and remembering and being cautious to remember where and who they come from and what they are to be used for and how they should not be used. In scripture, we also see that Yeshua, obviously, the most obvious example at this time, is that he was brought gifts, expensive gifts, gold, frankincense, myrrh, like really expensive, really quote unquote materialistic, really excessive, over the top, whatever, gifts. He was brought gifts that were very valuable. And so from that, we can derive that it's not sin to give someone gifts that are valuable. Now, of course, he was Mashiach. They bowed down to him. They knew who he was, the coming king, etc. But I'm just saying that if Mashiach is accepting something, or if it's demonstrated as something that's okay, then we can't be so quick to write it off as something wrong. Another example is someone not giving something to him, but him giving something to someone else. So wine, as we know, is not a necessity. Whether you think it's alcoholic wine or you think it's grape juice, either way, water would have been just fine. In scripture, John 2, we'll just start in the beginning. "And the third day there was a marriage in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Jesus," or Yeshua, "was there. And both Jesus was called," I'm reading from the King James, so that's why I'm saying Jesus, in case you guys didn't know. But anyway, "and both Jesus was called and his disciples to the marriage. And when they wanted wine, the mother of Jesus saith unto him, They have no wine. Jesus saith unto her, Woman, what have I to do with thee? Mine hour has not come. His mother saith unto the servants, Whatsoever he saith unto you, do it. It's like the mother voice, do it. Okay. And there were set there 6 water pots of stone, after the manner of the purifying of the Jews, containing 2 or 3 firkins apiece. Jesus saith unto them, fill the water pots with water, and they filled them up to the brim. And he saith unto them, draw out now, and bear unto the governor of the feast. And they bare it. When the ruler of the feast had tasted the water that was made wine, he knew not whence it was. But the servants which drew the water knew. The governor of the feast called the bridegroom, and saith unto him, every man at the beginning doth set forth good wine, and when men have well drunk, then that which is worse, but thou hast kept the good wine until now. This beginning of miracles did Jesus in Cana of Galilee, and manifested forth his glory, and his disciples believed on him. Okay, so we see right there in John that, when Yeshua turned the water into wine, that was a gift. It was not necessary. It wasn't like him giving, fish and bread, which is like, okay, it's sustenance. Like, you kind of need like something to eat, protein, all the other nutrients. I feel you. Okay, it's cool. This was wine, unless a bunch of people had stomach aches, unless you're going to count in like, them needing antioxidants at that point, when, they had already had enough, like the ruler was like, we've already had enough, but you saved the good stuff for last. So it was a gift. And I'm sure some people who are minimalists will be like, Yeshua was so excessive. Oh, he's so materialistic. So, of course, there's going to be someone somewhere to say that, Yeshua or Jesus was being extra. There was no need for him to give that big gift of wine, especially if it was alcohol. He was supporting drunkenness, etc., etc., etc. But the point there being that not only did Yeshua receive gifts, especially we read in Scripture upon his birth, costly gifts, but he also provided and he gave an unnecessary, right? It wasn't necessary for him to do that miracle and turn that water into wine for that wedding feast, but he did, and it was a gift, and it was received as a gift. So again, just one more scripture where we can't just throw out gift giving as something negative, bad, or because it's unnecessary or even excessive, it's bad. Ezekiel 16, I've read that passage before for other reasons, such as beautification purposes, but I also think it's a wonderful reference for when people start to talk about like the only way basically to be godly is to be makeupless, jewelryless, plain as can be, walking with your head down without any material goods, or as little as possible. It is fine if that is your style, but to try to make that some spiritual level, I think is dangerous, considering Ezekiel 16, I'm not going to read it because I've read it many times before, but that is the passage where God uses allegory for his relationship and his care of Israel, and he talks about how they were naked and like flying, like, floundering around in their blood, and he raised up, and it's in the allegory of a woman, so he raised her up. He gave her the finest linen garments, like the best of the best, the expensive, the quality, the completely unnecessary. But he doesn't just give us what we need to survive, he always gives us so much more. And Ezekiel 16 is a wonderful passage of allegory for that and for all of the extra things that God did provide. And then we also see a wonderful teaching there as to what Israel did with all of those wonderful blessings and those material gifts. We see that she, unlike in Deuteronomy, where God says, beware, don't you forget that I am the Lord. They forgot. We forget. So there's teaching in all of this. I want to read Matthew 7, and I'll just start in verse 8. Like, you can start in verse 7, but I'll start in verse 8. It's fine. For every one that asketh receiveth, and he that seeketh findeth, and to him that knocketh it shall be open. Or what man is there of you, whom if his son ask for bread, will give him a stone? Or if he ask a fish, will give him a serpent? If ye then, being evil, know how to give good gifts unto your children, how much more shall your Father, which is in heaven, give good things to them that ask him? So, for a person, a child, who has never received a gift, or maybe has only received a gift like once, or just a few times in their life, but this is not like a normal, maybe a yearly thing, a monthly thing, whatever, for them to receive good gifts from their parents, when they ask for something, this passage might fall on deaf ears to them. And God forbid that we withhold something from our children that God himself in his word is using to teach us about himself. So as parents, especially if you're a father, your job is to mirror our Heavenly Father. So for us, it is important to give our children gifts, things that hopefully we think that they'll like. They're not really old enough to ask for a whole lot, but things that we think that they're like, and for us to teach them, this is how you treat that gift. This is where that gift came from. This is why you have that gift. This gift can be taken away. And to share that which has been given to you. It's all about teaching your children what to do with all the good and perfect gifts from above that God gives, how to interact with them and how to behave when you have them. And so one of the other things that I pointed out to the sister who asked this wonderful question was, and this is because I was like, let's just go like easiest short answer and like not have to copy and paste a whole bunch of scripture from New Version. But one of the easiest ways to understand, and if you're short for time and you maybe want to explain it to somebody, is using the 5 love languages by Gary Chapman, I believe. So most people have heard of the 5 love languages. If you haven't, Google it. But so much of parenting and relationship advice today is centered around this idea of the 5 love languages. Now, the 5 love languages are acts of service, quality time, words of affirmation, touch, and gifts. So as parents, you don't really know like your 4 and your 2-year-olds love language. It's kind of like super early to be like, boom, this is your love language. And I mean, even at the age of 12 or 13, people are still developing. So when it comes to children, especially, I feel like because we're not sure, which love language is like their primary, and because they are children, they're still developing, it's our job to feed all of those 5 love languages. And if we wouldn't withhold touch, because the world abuses touch, if we wouldn't withhold words of affirmation, hey, that was a wonderful thing that you just did, or hey, I think like the way that you're thinking about this is really awesome. Like I'm pretty proud of the way that you're thinking through this. If we wouldn't withhold that, if we wouldn't withhold spending quality time with our kids, if we wouldn't withhold acts of service for our kids, wiping butts, brushing teeth, the normal mom and dad stuff that we got to do when you have kids and when you love them and you want to care for them. If we're not going to withhold those 4 things from our children, why on earth would we want to withhold the 5th, gifts? Just because the world goes overboard or focuses only on that or primarily on that, or you feel like what have you with that? God forbid, Yah forbid, may it never be that we look at the world and we react to the world and we ignore his word and what his word says we should be doing, how his word says we should love. May we never do that. And if we do that, or if we're in the habit of doing that, may we stop right now and may the Ruach HaKodesh convict us of it. Because that's problematic for us, and it's problematic for our children, and they're watching, and they're going to grow up, and they're going to resent it, or they're going to follow that. Or they'll be fine and they'll heal, and God will do his thing. But I'm just saying, it's our job to not just set a good example, be a good example, but to challenge ourselves and to correct ourselves where we are in error. So anyway, I'm not saying anyone has to give their kids gifts or has to go buy anything. But even, if you don't want to give gifts for Hanukkah, then hopefully at some other time during the year, maybe just because it's Monday, you go and you get your kid a book that they like, or you make them you know, I made the girls these little fabric purses from some African fabric I had, and they loved it. And it was given to me as a gift, and it was given to the person who gave it to me, my mom. It was given to her as a gift, so it was essentially very, very free, and they loved it, and I think that they felt loved from it. So it's not always something that you have to go spend money on, but it is an act of, I have this, I made this, I did this, here, I want to give this thing to you. And I hope it's meaningful. There is nothing sinful about it. So anyway, until next time, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think. I want to hear from you. Chag Sameach, happy Hanukkah. As you can see, the menorah that was right here is not right here. The Hanukkah, rather, that was right here is not right here because it's in our windowsill, burning down. And I had to wait 5 hours to finish recording this video because I had camera issues. So anyway, until next time, God allowing, Amir to Hashem. Bye everyone.